This chapter is all about styling and decor, which is my favorite part of the process. This is when we get to make your space personal. You bring in all of your decorative objects, things you've collected over the years, artwork that's meaningful to you. So we've set our furniture and lighting. Now it's time to move on to styling. First, we'll start with shelving, then we'll go into tabletop surfaces, and finally textiles. I am really excited. I hope you are too. Let's get started. Styling a space is not just about pretty things. As much as possible, I'm looking for ways to bring in beauty to my space, but beauty with meaning, things that you have some sort of sentimental attachment to, or they reference a memory. As much as possible, I'm looking for things that are handmade. When it comes time to gather these various objects to then style your space, here are a few tips. First of all, go back to your inspiration. So as much as possible, as you're putting your room together, you want to reference back to what your original vision and plans were. I have my folder, and I'm just going to take a look. I don't have to spend a lot of time on this. I know that these watery blue greens, those are already in the space. So that's the wall color, that's the table. That's done. What really hasn't shown up too much are these rusty reds. So I think that my decor could be a great opportunity to pull in some of these colors. Not a lot. I think that about 80% of the room can fall into one category. Maybe that's just generally cool colors or neutral colors. And then leave 20% to just do something fun, unexpected. It's a pop that makes that room exciting and interesting. In this case, the reds might be that. We'll see, I'll let that unfold organically. So let me walk you through just a few things I have at my table to show you examples. I love shopping my house for decorative objects. This piece right here, I love because it is actually handmade and it's not fancy, it wasn't expensive. I picked it up at an antique mall. But you can see that it has this really handcrafted look to it. So putting it in my space, it looks like something special. Someone spent time making this. It's a craft that someone really invested in. I always know when something's handmade because of a signature at the bottom. And I like thinking that this person made this with heart and soul and now it gets to live in my space. That is an object with meaning. This dish here is really special. My son and I like to go on nature walks, and he's always picking up things like feathers or rocks or little natural things. And I like to collect those in small dishes. So that's just another example. Decorative things, they don't have to be pretty, they don't have to be fancy. I like to think about things that are natural, handmade, special. This is an example. So next, let's move to shelving. I'm considering this mantle a shelf because it is a ledge kind of up against the wall. This is a good place to start because it's centering the room. I think it'll inform other parts of the space. Now, when I'm looking at a long surface like this with lots of vertical space, the first thing that I'm thinking about is something large. So I want to start with the largest pieces that would be at the back of everything else on the shelf first. Then I'll kind of build on top of that, bring in smaller things, more details, but first we'll start with things that are larger, heavier. A great thing for a mantle is a mirror. The reason I'm starting here is I just want a large shape that I can then build on top of. The first thing can be the hardest thing. It's like, where do you start? Just put something up there. I also like that it has an arched top. I feel as though we've got plenty of straight lines in this room, so bringing in something curved just softens all of the straight lines. This mirror I like because it has this detail of the gilded frame. It feels kind of Art Deco to me, so referencing back to my inspiration phase, I feel like this style falls into one of the design categories that I outlined at the beginning. I also placed it off center, and that's because when I look at this mantle, it's very symmetrical. I'd like to go for a more asymmetrical arrangement just to throw that off so we don't start feeling too rigid and stiff. I would like now to layer in some kind of art. Art's really important to us, and I have a few pieces that are really special to me. So let me go to that next. All right. Well, this isn't fancy. And art doesn't have to be. This is actually just a sketch of mine from college. I was in a drawing class and we did a blind continuous line drawing. Maybe you have something from a class you took once, a ceramics workshop that you did. I mean, it could be any number of things, but for me, I like this because it tells a piece of my story. I also like that it has this dark black frame, so it feels like visually it's kind of balancing this larger mirror over here. Right now, I'm still building out this foundational layer, and by that I just mean the largest things on your shelf. It can be as simple as that. I like working in threes, so I still need one more piece. After that, I'll layer in things that are different sizes and shapes. I'll add something organic. Those are the kind of finishing touches. So when I look at these two together, they're really lined up, you know, one right next to the other, perfectly centered. That's an example of something very symmetrical, and I don't think it works. I need a third thing to balance that out. And actually, that's another good rule of thumb, working in threes or in odd numbers. There's something about it, and don't ask me why, because I don't know, that's just more visually pleasing. All right. I really like this piece. I like this because I've got something tall, I've got something kind of mid-level, and then something shorter. So we're going for threes even in the height of these pieces. So this is a good foundation. Now I'm gonna layer in smaller things of different shapes and sizes. All right, I'm just gonna put that there and see what it does. You know what? I wanna layer something in front of this art. When I put this bowl here, it's too deep. It just sticks out too much. So I'm gonna swap this for something that is narrow and can sit in front of this art. Really have some fun, be organic, unexpected. And this is tying in that brass color. I have the brass tray over there, bringing it over here. And then step back, take a look at what you've done, make some edits, go from there. Now, the final thing, I need something organic. I need something with movement that feels sculptural. We have lots of straight lines, lots of hard surfaces. I want something to just feel living and breathing. So I foraged some branches from my yard. That is the best way to get branches, is just go clip something from your yard. You don't have to be a florist for this. All you need is clippers, a couple good trees in your yard. Maybe not even that. Maybe you go to the grocery store. You can just find some varieties you like. Just gotta get it just right and just nobody breathe. There it is. That's it. I like it. I think this is done. Mantle is done. Now we can move on to the bookcase. We have a bookcase, but this could be a cabinet or some built-in shelves. First layer is foundation, the base, and I'm going to use books as that layer. As I start placing things, I'm gonna work across the whole piece of furniture. So I'm not starting at one shelf and then finishing it all the way before I move on to the next. It's like I'm doing one broad stroke across the whole thing and then going back with the next layer, same thing across the whole shelf. I'm trying not to think too much about this. I like when books are just easy and kind of organically placed. So I've got kind of my 80-20 thing going on here, where most of the books are in those warmer colors and then just a few are blue and kind of cooler. This is a book from my childhood. I do love this book. So by placing all of the books together, I'm really thinking of them as one collective unit. So they will read as a solid piece versus lots of individual pieces when it's all done. Let's see. Whoops, that'll happen. Now's a good time for a bookend. Yeah, these are practical. This will help. Okay. Yeah, this book is, there's a French verb book and Encyclopedia of Gardening. I'm always looking for books about gardening and flowers, and that's just because I like flowers. It's pretty simple. I think as I'm looking at this, I'm trying to kind of move in a sinuous way through the bookshelf. So I'm not keeping everything on one side, but I'm moving back and forth. And I can see that I've got a hole right here. So I think I'm gonna find a stack of books to place there. I know just what I want. These books are a little bigger. I guess you'd call these more of like art books or design books. So they're not like these smaller novel-sized books. I like where this is at. So I've added my foundational layer of books. This is like the base, and then I'm gonna layer everything else on top of it. I did this on the mantle. And trays are just really great for collecting smaller things on top of so that it looks a bit more organized and tidy. Feel like I want something there. So as I get into this next phase, I'm thinking about how things can live next to each other. So it's like the complement of objects. They're different shapes and sizes. So I'll be arranging little clusters of items. I think I'll use this vase. I love this. I found this at a thrift store, and it is clearly handmade. It has all sorts of texture, and you can see the glaze that's really imperfect, and Fran made it, so good job, Fran. What else? This bowl has a great crackle finish, and see how they're similar. They both look kind of handcrafted. They're both kind of an ivory color, but they're different sizes. So this is sort of top heavy, and this one's low and wide. I like that variation. You can really rely on your instinct and what you think looks good. So place something, experiment, move it, change it. It's nice when you have this flat surface to put something rounded on top of it. So you've got all these straight lines, rectangular shapes, and then something round on top. Like this guy, like this. So bookcases, they're a great place to display things that are special to you, mementos, family pictures, things you just like. I feel like I need something up here. This is just kind of bringing your eye up a little higher. I'm gonna push that back because I want this little guy to sit right there. I just think he's funny. So much of this process is placing something, stepping back, editing, looking for various holes you might have or where something might feel out of balance. I've got a lot of things sitting on these shelves, and they're mostly on the front side, but I feel like I need something on this back plane. So again, I'm thinking about all of the various planes within each of these shelves. The bottom all the way to the top, and then front to back. So I'd like something to break that back plane. Maybe it's a little piece of art that's hung right here. Let me look at what I've got. So let me get the exact placement somewhere in there. There we go. Okay. Yeah. Great. All right, now that I've finished the bookshelf, I'm ready to move on to tabletops. We'll keep those a little simpler. And then finally, textiles. So that's like pillows, throws, things like that. So similar to the mantle, this is like a long, flat surface. But it's also underneath our TV, so I'm not gonna do anything to the wall because I don't wanna obstruct the view of the TV. Everything will be very low to the surface. Just good, solid stack of books. These, again, are what you might call art books or photo books. They're larger, they're not the shorter novel-sized books. And I like these because they're lighter than the credenza, so they're contrasting to the tabletop. This is my base layer. I've got books and a tray. I'm ready for the smaller things in and around that. And my old matchbooks. It can really be as simple as that. Just a few pretty things that you like. This is a good stack of books for this table. They're a nice contrast to the warm wood. I've filled those bottom shelves. I'm not overthinking it. Just gonna do a small tray here. Maybe this is in place of a coaster, so if someone wanted to set a drink here, they could. And finally, the coffee table. So consider your own coffee table. Maybe it's a different shape, you treat it differently. Ours is round. It's also a pretty big statement from a design perspective, so I don't want to cover that up. I'm going to keep it really simple. This bowl right here is great for just collecting things in. And I think coffee table is one of those places where things just sort of end up. It's like keys and remotes and coasters and loose change. They end up here, and if I can give them a place to land, then it just feels a little tidier, a little more organized. The last thing that this room needs are some soft textiles, pillows and throws. Now it's time to add that layer of warmth and texture. All right, final layer. I've pulled a few options. I'm looking for ways to connect those colors. So this pillow does that. It's got basically everything in the room right here. The blue, greens, kind of the softer teal colors, some of the rusty reds and neutrals. And then everything else I'm just keeping very basic, blocks of color. I think I've got enough pattern going on with the coffee table and the rug. Let's try that there. I'm not going to overfill this sofa. Insider tip, I like to fluff my pillows so that they don't sit like a straight box like that. It looks very stiff and rigid. I kind of tap them on the sides and the top just so they have a little shape. And then 5 minutes from now it'll be messed up again, but you know, at least it starts pretty. Let's see what else we've got. Throws, again, just something at hand so that whoever's hanging out here, they feel like they can really get cozy. That is too much of the same. You see I've got this black and white pillow here and then this black and white and gray throw here, and it feels now kind of out of balance. So maybe I'll swap this. I like this pillow. That's a different shape. It's long and narrow. Just put that there. Yeah, like that. These chairs are too small to accommodate a pillow, and they would just fall out through the back anyway, so I'm not gonna touch those. I think that feels too small. This is a great pillow to lean up against. You know, this doesn't match anything in the room. I just like it. It's sort of funky. So I'm just gonna throw it here on this chair because I know that I'll be spending a lot of time in this chair. Okay, let me take the room in as a whole, make any final edits. You know what? I think this pillow's too big. Yeah, I like that better. Okay. I think as far as styling goes, I'm done. So we talked through styling shelving, tabletops, and textiles. Go experiment in your own space. Remember, this is organic, it's fun, it can be an experiment, a creative project. I can't wait to see what you do.